but are they realistic? And is the grass always greener on the other side? Well, we're joined by Lottie Thompson. She says she has no regrets after leaving her old life behind to travel the world with her partner, 2 children, and also pet cat as well. And here in the studio is Shona Saibury. She says her fresh start a few years ago left her feeling miserable. Morning to both of you. Lottie, let's come to you first in that case, because this is a huge change that you've made, isn't it? Just explain why you made the decision to give it all up and to live life on a boat instead.
Well, we just wanted to do something completely different and have a big family adventure. We felt we were just being sucked into the rat race. We were going to work, putting the kids into school and nursery, and hardly ever seeing them, really. We just thought we wanted to challenge ourselves and spend a bit more time with each other. And my partner's always loved sailing, and by having a boat, it meant we could travel the world, basically.
And how has that worked out for you then? Because obviously it is such a big change, isn't it? Are you happy with the decision that you made?
Totally, 100%. I have to admit, though, the first 3 months, there were problems. It was a big readjustment to make, and I suffered terribly from seasickness. So it took me 2 or 3 months to get my sea legs. But luckily, the children were born sailors. They've never suffered from seasickness at all. But I had to really sort of conquer my fears and the seasickness. But that's all gone now, so it's been pretty much plain sailing since then.
I think someone might be trying to get in touch with you somehow. I'm intrigued, though, because you've got Hector sitting on your lap there, and it's lovely to see him. And I know you've got little Phoebe Plum as well, who's on the boat somewhere else, and you've got a cat. I mean, I've got 2 small children. At that sort of age, confining to the boat, does ever that get tricky for them?
I don't think so. You know, they have all the deck space. We've got a big deck space for them to run about on, and we've got the whole ocean and the sea. We're always going to new places, so they never get bored. I'd say that they're less bored now than they ever were on land when we tended to do the same things over and over again. I have to admit, there are times when you feel like you want your own little space, but there's lots of nooks and crannies on the boat. You know, we've all got our own berths and our own sort of spaces. So I think it's worked out pretty well.
And what about friends as well for Hector and for Phoebe Plum? Because that's one of the important things as little ones are growing up, that they can socially sort of acclimatise with other kids in the class or in the playground.
He does miss his friends from school, but we keep in contact both with his class through his teacher. We send emails to each other, so we keep in touch that way. His friends come out to us when we were sailing, and he's made so many new friends here as well. Because we're wintering in Sicily at the moment, there's over 20 boat kids in this marina from all over the world, you know, from age 3 to 12. So they get on really well, and that's a good experience for them both.
Well, good to know that it's positive from your point of view, Lottie. Let's bring in Shona at this stage, because Shona, you decided to make a big change for you and your family,
yes.
But it didn't work out as well, did it?
I think there's a big difference between having an adventure, which is what these guys are doing, and making a decision on the 1st of January to fundamentally change your life in a drastic way, which is a much harder thing to do. I'd be interested to know if they've sold their house in the UK and actually they're planning on doing this for the rest of their lives, because, I mean, I think it's great what they're doing, and there's a big difference with doing it with smaller children as well. They are their children's world. When you try and displace teenagers like we did, we've got 3 teenagers and an 8-year-old, we made a decision on behalf of our children that we wanted a better life, but was that the best decision for them?
Were they on board with that then when you did that?
Well, no, not really. We kind of dragged them. You know, I thought it would be quite easy. How hard can it be? It was only 4 counties to the west of where we were living, and they still spoke English. But, you know, I think it's difficult to know what your drivers are as a human being and what makes you happy day to day. And I think it's very easy to sit at home, you know, at the beginning of January, and you've got all this pressure on social media to change things.
So, Shona, so sorry, just so we can explain, you were living in Surrey.
West Sussex, Surrey,
West Sussex, sorry, on the border. And then you decided to up sticks and go down to all the way down to Devon.
All the way down to Devon.
And go from quite a big metropolis, urban area, to the middle of nowhere.
And you just think, well, how hard can that be? You know, they do still speak English, it's still the UK.
So what went wrong then? Because you're now back, aren't you?
We're back, and we gave it 4 years. But for us, it was supposed to be a life change, a proper life change. You know, we were thinking we're going to retire down there. We bought a house down there. This was a major thing. But looking back on it, retrospectively, it did a lot of damage to my children because they didn't ask for that. And I think when you've got children that are 6 and 2, as I said before, you are their world. It's easy to, you know, take them on an adventure. But when you've got children that have their own life and their own world, and you displace them in that way, it does have a lasting, damaging effect on them.
You've left a few of them. You came back, but 2 of them stayed down there, didn't
One of them is down there at boarding school. You see, she didn't want to come back. She wanted to go, and now she doesn't want to come back. I think my point is that, you know, you think, oh, let's have a simpler life. Let's lead an outdoorsy existence. Let's spend more time together as a family. You know, we'll go swimming in the sea before breakfast every morning. The reality is you are still, you know, screaming at your children to get out of the house because you're running late and chucking cornflakes into a bowl. I didn't change as a person because I moved to Devon. You know, my geographical circumstances changed, but I am still the person that I am. And I think what I didn't understand and fully appreciate was that I didn't really know what my drivers were. I didn't know what made me happy until I went there and realised it wasn't that. And now I'm back again.
I guess sometimes you have to go through that to come to that realisation.
Let's get one last comment from Lottie and Hector, who are on the boat. It does look beautiful there. I love the idea of being boat kids as well. That sounded very romantic. What's your advice to people who may be thinking about doing something similar?
Just to do it. If we thought about all the problems, all the potential problems, we would never have done it. So you just have to go ahead and do it, and it will be fantastic.
Go. Lottie, thank you so much. And Hector, for being very patient and sitting there on your lap like a superstar as well. Lovely to see you this morning.
Thanks to you as well, Shona. And actually, I've got a tweet here from Carol. There's a really lovely sentiment in this one. She says, bloom where you were planted. So wherever you end up, wherever you decide to be, she moved her family to the States. Bloom where you're planted. Lovely.